All right. And we're the BBE, well, we as well. The BBE is now live this Friday at 12 p.m. CST. Let's kick it off, shall we?
Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail. Nottingham Mail, boys, Nottingham Mail, no liquor on earth is like Nottingham Mail.
And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And if you are returning, like some of our friends out at home are now, welcome, welcome, welcome back. My name is Thomas Allen. I'm a countertenor and one of the directors of the BBE, and also one of your hosts for the BBE Live.
I'm Leanne Dale Ragusa, another director of the BBE, the resident flute player, and I'm coming to you from Bloomington, Indiana.
And I am Brandy Berry Benson, yet another one of the directors of the BBE, coming to you from Chicago, Illinois. And I am super thrilled that we have fabulous soprano singer Elena Mullins with us. She sings with a lot of different people. We've gotten to perform together a lot. And thank you, Elena. You're joining us from the Cleveland area, as you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah, and the sun was even out this morning. It's not out anymore, but
Not common in Ohio, apparently.
I know. I'm a big Cleveland booster. Anyone that hangs out with me for enough time will know that I love living in Cleveland, but it's been a long, dark winter. So I'm really looking forward to spring.
Yes, you've been trying to fend off the White Walkers from this dark winter. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we all have, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. We'll get to that. But first, guess what? We get to play a game with Elena, and as we all know if you've joined us before in the past, you know how these go. We have warned Elena, who did her research before she came, so that's great. So she knows what's up. But as you know, if you're joining us, we have a series of games. And first up is Leanne. Leanne, tell us how we're going to do this.
All right, my game is the Sordid Lives of Composers, and today it's going to be the Women edition because in honor of Women's History Month, which comes on March 1st. So the way this works is I'm going to read you a paragraph about a composer. I may or may not leave out pertinent information, but there will be 4 multiple choice answers on the screen, and you get to decide who you think the answer is. But there will be a little thinking music, just like Jeopardy, so you can contemplate your answer. So without further ado, let's get started. So this Italian composer entered the Ursuline convent in Novara, Italy at the age of 16 and remained there for the rest of her life. She wrote almost all of her compositions for performances at the convent while maintaining her duties as music teacher, counselor, and eventually mother superior. By the time she was 80, she had written over 200 pieces of music, including solo motets, sacred concertos for 2 to 4 voices, litanies, cantatas, masses, and music for vespers, primarily in Latin, but occasionally she did Italian as well, and instrumental sonatas. She is credited for being the first woman to publish an instrumental sonata, which was her Opus 16 for violin and basso continuo. Was this Claudia Rusca, Anna Isabella Leonarda, Lucrezia Orsina Vizana? I'm really bad at pronouncing these names. I'm sorry. Chiara Margherita Cozzolani, and a little thinking music.
You did fine, I promise.
Now that I butchered that.
I spend so much of my life correcting people's Italian. I'm gonna hold it in.
I took German, so I'm really sorry.
The only name I recognize is Di Cozzolani, and I know that she was a nun, or she was in a convent, presumably a nun. So
and most mother superiors kind of look like this portraiture as well. Yes.
I mean, yeah, that doesn't it look sort of 18th century, the portrait?
A little, but
Cozzolani is 17th century, so it's throwing me a little. But she couldn't look less like a mother superior. So I'm going with D just because I don't have a better answer than that.
I was
Tom?
going to go with B just because I don't know for some reason. But you know what? I feel that at least Elena had a compelling argument that I know this person was a nun. So I'm gonna stick with our guest and go with D for dog.
Brandy, since you're the violinist,
I know.
you-
I'm like, I'm
are
supposed
you
to know this answer.
familiar with this sonata?
I'm not really, but actually, for conceptually the same reason that Elena chose D, B as the Anna Isabella Leonarda is actually the only name I really recognize on this list. So I'm gonna go with B for BBE.
So we have a B and 2 Ds, correct?
Correct.
Sure.
All right, Brandy, you're right. It's B.
There were
Anna.
a lot of nuns in the 17th, and I guess is she 18th century, Anna Isabella?
Yes. And
Okay.
so actually the majority of these people are or were nuns.
Okay.
Yes.
And musicians, not to confuse you or anything.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
okay.
mean, I've played music. I'm sure that I've played music by her, but I definitely haven't played the solo violin sonata by her. So
well,
now I'll have to look it up.
all right. So our next question. This composer was the oldest child of King Frederick of Prussia. She began performing on harpsichord at the age of 6 and later began studying the lute with Silvius Leopold Weiss. She studied singing with Franz Benda and Paganelli. She regularly performed at her mother's concerts, often accompanying Locatelli and Johann Gottlieb Graun. However, she occupied most of her time with composing. To date, only a few of her compositions survive: a flute sonata, the opera Argenore, a few vocal compositions, and a harpsichord concerto. So, was this Wilhelmine of Prussia, Anna Amalia of Prussia, Anna Bonn of Prussia, or Marie Anne Catherine of Prussia? But first, a little thinking music.
I don't need the music. I know. I know what I don't know. It is pretty adorable. I love the thinking music for your show. It's pretty great.
Well, we couldn't use Jeopardy because we get sued. So we used
Yeah,
some of
there you
that
go.
stuff.
There you go. Yeah. Well, it's encouraging that there are so many more women composers than I have ever heard of. Lots to explore. I do not know the answer to this.
Yeah, I definitely don't. It would be a total stab in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, I can comment how much I really like the portrait because it reminded me of a filter on a phone. The way that it's got the blue tint.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the bow is also very cute.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can't comment on any of these people's works. I am kind of curious though, since they're all of Prussia. I kind of wonder if they all knew of each other and knew each other. That would be kind of interesting.
Here's a hint. They're not all really of Prussia.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
I had to make them all of Prussia because only one of them was of Prussia.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Right? So that would have given it away.
Oh.
Okay, so actually, only one of these is a name that we might have come across. So
Okay.
if any of these names look familiar, like which of these names should be of Prussia, I guess is what I'm saying. They all work.
They do. I know. I was sneaky with this one. Sorry.
I don't know. My gut instinct is D, and I have no good rationale for that. So
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I mean, Marie and Catherine. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll go for D.
Everyone's going for D. Well, unfortunately, you're wrong. She's of something else. I can't remember. She's not of Prussia, but she's of like Beirut or something. I don't remember. But it's Wilhelmine of Prussia.
Of course.
Okay, of course.
Absolutely.
Of course. Yes.
I wouldn't have gotten this right either. So don't feel bad.
That's most of our trivia. Okay, great.
All right. Excellent.
This is a learning experience for all of us.
Yes.
All right. Well, this Italian composer and singer spent the majority of her composing career in France. She studied with the renowned composer Cavalli. She maintained a regular relationship with King Louis XIV, who respected her first for her beautiful singing voice and later for her compositional skills. Our hard work earned her a pension with the king, allowing her the freedom to compose as she wished without financial or time obligations. Her first manuscript of 41 works, Produzioni Armonici, don't quote me on that's how you say it, was dedicated to King Louis XIV. In addition to writing arias, motets, and cantatas, she wrote one opera, L'Ercole Amanti. She was one of the only female composers able to establish herself in 2 different cities and countries decisively. Her music was an amazing feat for a woman of her time who established herself so concretely in a foreign country while continuing to pursue her musical interests. So, who do we think this composer is? Is it Barbara Strozzi, Lucrezia Orsina Vizani, I think there is a typo. I think it should only have one O. Antonio Bembo, Rosa Giazzanta Badalla. But first, a little thinking music. Any guesses?
I mean,
Not A.
I don't know everything about Barbara Strozzi's story, but I've never heard about her going to France.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely not A. And plus, the picture is not her.
It's not that everyone's favorite Strozzi portrait. Sana Bembo. Did Bembo come up in one of these episodes that I was watching?
No,
No?
I don't think so.
Not that I recall.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so good. So then at this point, we're going to take the GRE a way of picking and just literally what have we not used. I'm going to go with C for cat.
Well, I should let Brandy go for B because it's her favorite letter, clearly.
I mean, I was leaning towards that anyways.
I'll take B.
Yeah. I'm leaning towards B.
Antonio Bembo.
Antonio. So we have a B, a C, and a D. Well, Thomas, you are correct.
No way.
It's Antonio. I love it.
What is the first name actually, though?
Is this supposed to be Antonio?
Is it Antonio?
Yeah,
Oh,
that was.
maybe
I think I had a typo. Sorry.
I should have caught it. I copied and pasted, and I was just like, and just hit it.
Yeah, I had never heard of her, but she sounds really interesting. So I did a little research into her. So
yeah.
All right, cool. Well, great. So we survived that one, mostly by guessing, and incorrectly, which is great. And we'll get to do that again because as we hit mine's usually referred to as Thomas's Revenge because I usually don't do well in that first episode, and I didn't do so hot. And Cat's Doppelgangers because I like cats. So how this game works is on the next page we will see the names of 3 composers. We will listen to a segment about 30 seconds to 60 seconds worth of a piece or some music by a person on that list. We'll take a stab at who it is, and I don't blame anybody at home for not knowing these because I would have gotten 50% of them right. And then I will reveal what the piece was, who sang it, who wrote it, and then a chosen cat doppelganger that either relates directly to what we were talking about or just how I felt at the time. So here's your first 3, and you can see that these are from the ancient world. Madonna probably could have easily been put on this one because we love the single names. So hopefully we can go back a little bit in our minds. And here is a snippet of I think it's about a minute worth of music, but really beautiful.
Che
And here's a hint. This is considered to be the oldest known extant piece of music that is known to have been written by a woman composer.
And the music itself is preserved, not just the text.
Yes. That's very key to knowing who it is.
I don't know if Sappho had music preserved. I don't know. And I have no idea who the other two are. So this is par for the course so far.
I'm thinking A or B.
Well, I'll give you a hint. Elena's correct. So Sappho has a lot of poetry, but no music survives that accompanies that.
Cool.
I was listening for the language, and it there were a couple moments that I thought it was Latin, but then it didn't. And I thought I heard Christi or Christ. So then I was like, okay, it's not Sappho, but it didn't really sound like Latin. I don't know. And neither of those names look like, I don't know.
I mean,
they both look
I feel like Cassia could easily be a pop name now.
Right.
So
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I have no clue.
I
would just have to guess.
Go for it.
I'll go with A because I have no idea, but I like her name.
It's a very cool name. I'm gonna go Cassia.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so 2 B's and an A. Well, those who picked Cassia were correct.
Hey.
This is the Troparion, or this is one of the actually still used in the Orthodox Church today. And it's one of the only ones that we have from a woman composer of the time. So there's a picture of Cassia, and my cat doppelganger. I was really fortunate to find this great icon. I looked so hard for when this one popped up.
Amazing.
Perfect. All right, great job, y'all.
So was that Greek then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and Cassia is a very Greek name, at least in my ear. So, and you picked up on it, right? It has that sort of Latin feel to it because of the church, but it was in fact Greek. So
yeah, and I think I heard Mary's name in there too. Yeah. Anyway.
All right, great job, everybody. So now I went with Leanne's theme. So we have the Countess of Die, the Bridget of Sweden, and Blanche of Castile.
I'm just amazed that these people have been recorded at all.
Yeah,
so much to know.
Yeah.
No, but maybe because remember Sappho wasn't recorded at all. So tricky. So here is a piece of music by one of these 3 ladies.
You are so tricky.
All right, good. I love it. Yeah, you note that I translated everything into English.
Yep, very good. So that's by the Comtessa de Dia, is how she's normally referred to. So A, yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna go with A. That sounds pretty confident
Famous
there.
troubadour lady.
I'm gonna go with A too.
Yeah,
definitely A.
That's exactly what it is. And I admit, so I have to, before I reveal this, I was looking for, again, this whole string of nuns who were composing, right? So super interesting. And I was almost positive that I found a recording of music by Bridget of Sweden. And I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. But of course, then as I was listening, I was like, I don't think this is really Bridget of Sweden. And I can't find anything by it. So I was like, okay, we'll go back and we'll do Comtessa de Dia. And I was like, I figured Elena might know it, given her early music instincts. So that explains my my cat doppelganger, because I was really, really bent on doing Bridget of Sweden, who is a nun. The Comtessa was not, but I kept the nun around anyway. So if Bridget of Sweden was a nun in contemporary society, here is either what she would look like or her cat. So great job.
Great.
Everybody
Yay.
survived. Good work.
Yay, we survived.
And now
All
we'll
right.
round it out with Brandy.
Yes, and now we've finished. We conclude the trivia with 2 truths and a lie. So I'll be reading 3 different statements, and your job is to pick the one that has the lie in it. There'll be a little bit of thinking music. So let's get started here with the first batch. So statement number 1, even after, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I need to go back to actually number 1. All right, Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre's opera, Cephalé et Procris, which I cannot pronounce any of that, was the first opera written by a woman in France. Second statement, Barbara Strozzi published her first book of madrigals when she was 25 years old. And then the third statement, Strozzi's daughter Isabella met Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre when she traveled to France to study dance at King Louis XIV's court. So which one is the lie? And now a little thinking music.
And Elena, just so you know, Brandy has a tendency to change one word in a statement, and then that is what makes it false. So
yeah, I've picked up on this from the research that I did on this program. Well, I don't know if Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre was the first female opera composer in France. So,
or if that was her opera, actually. I don't know any of this. So
yeah, I don't know. I have a very good friend who did a project on her at Case for one of her big lecture recitals, and I that looks like a familiar title. So, Barbara Strozzi very well could have been 25 years old when she published a book of madrigals, which I'm sure she did. She would have published a book of madrigals, right? Okay, yeah. And then so Strozzi, I think of her as being like pretty early in the 17th century. So her daughter Isabella would have been slightly later in the 17th century. And then Elizabeth Jacquet de la Guerre, I don't know. I mean, I think the timing is roughly plausible, but I just don't, it seems unlikely that the meeting would have happened.
So you're banking on the third one.
I'm going C. Yeah, I'm going.
That's what I was leaning for. I don't really know for sure, but I'm going to go with C as well.
I also feel that that's one of those where there's so much information that one thing could be a little bit off.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we're all leaning towards C. Good job leading the charge.
Excellent. Well, C it is. And there's more than just one thing wrong with that statement. Isabella became a nun, from what I was reading, and then so never would have met de la Guerre, never traveled to France, as far as I could tell, and so certainly wouldn't have studied dance at King Louis XIV's court.
Yeah.
So, there was lots wrong with that last statement for sure.
Right.
All right. The next one. Okay, here's where. All right, I'm going to read the better wording that Thomas did. All right, even after taking her Benedictine vows, this is all about Hildegard, by the way. Hildegard wrote a highly erotic letter to Guibert of Gibloux, suggesting she dreamed of another life outside of her vowed life. Hildegard wrote 3 volumes of visionary theology, as well as Ordo Virtutum, a musical morality play. And then finally, Hildegard states that she first started having visions at the age of 3, but that she didn't really understand what she was experiencing until she was at 5 years old. So, which is the lie? And now a little thinking music.
I'm going to go with the first one.
Why?
Because I think the second and third one are true, and I've never heard
that's a good reason, I guess.
Anything about the first one. I haven't done extensive Hildegard research, but I'm pretty sure such a juicy detail about her life would have come across at some point.
There's just something about the third one though, where it's like the timing, because I didn't realize. I mean, do we know that doing that at 3 and 5 seems very young?
I think they were. That doesn't surprise me at all,
Yeah,
based on what I've heard about her childhood. Yeah, it might. Who knows? Maybe Brandy. Maybe it was really 4 and 6, and that's a big lie. But
Who knows?
Brandy laughs because that's true. Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
All right, so we've got a vote for A. Thomas, Leanne, what do you guys think?
I really want to believe A is true because I just think that's such an awesome detail. Like,
Yeah, but I really have no idea. So I'm going to go with A.
and I'm pretty sure B is true.
Yeah, I think B is true. I'm not. Yeah.
At
I'll
least
go
the
with her.
ordo is true. Okay. Acknowledging that number A is likely not true, I'm just gonna pick C just because I want it to be.
Well, it is in fact A. That is the lie. She did not write a highly erotic letter. So sorry to disappoint you, Thomas. She, I think, was happy taking her vow of chastity there. So
she was very committed to her
Yes.
vocation. Yeah.
Indeed.
It's just interesting that she understood by age 5. So that's kind of interesting.
That's what
Yeah.
she says. So,
Lady.
yeah. It's very, very interesting. She is really an interesting woman. And then finally, the last batch of statements will be about Francesca Caccini. So, Statement 1. Francesca Caccini was the daughter of the famous Giulio Caccini, sorry to butcher that too, who was considered one of the founders of opera. Francesca's work, La Liberazione di Ruggiero, is considered one of the earliest operas by a woman composer. And then finally, the third statement, Francesca was widowed 3 times and had 2 children survive into adulthood. So, which is the lie? And now a little thinking music.
I'm almost positive that the first one is true. I mean, I would have told you that her father was Giulio Caccini. So either I'm horribly mistaken or and then I don't know the Liberazione di Ruggiero, but it's totally plausible that she wrote an opera.
And therefore would have been one of the earliest operas.
It would have been one of the earliest, and you didn't say the earliest, so that's a little bit of elbow room for truth there. I'm guessing she was widowed 2 times and had 3 children survive into adulthood, and therefore the third was lie.
Excellent. Thomas and Leanne?
I really have no idea because I don't really know much about her. So I'm going to go with the third one too, because I feel like Brandy could, change a number.
I would go with the third one, but I do want to throw in a caveat. So I feel like, like especially, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, right? Like number 2, if Giulio Caccini, right, was one of the earliest opera composers, right? That's very forward thinking. It would be pretty amazing that his daughter would jump on that train so early in the opera boat too. Am I incorrect in thinking something like that? Because so few people would have been doing it. But it makes sense if that was her father, and then suddenly it's like, well, I mean, I was around it, so might as well do it.
I think it's plausible to me that she did write an opera. I know her songs, her secular songs, and they are so awesome. I've worked on a few of them, and I can't recommend them enough. There's this amazing album, and I can't think of I think it's a mezzo anyway, just Spotify or Google, whatever, her songs and look her up, and they're so gorgeous. So I don't know her opera that she may or may not have written, but
Well, I'm gonna go with 3 anyway. So
A 3?
yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Well, you go team. You guys got it right. She was in fact widowed only 2 times. And I actually don't know if the 2 children, the only thing I could find out about them was any kind of documentation up until early teens for one. And I don't know if the other one actually survived into adulthood. So there you go. Number 3 was the lie. All right. Good job, everybody.
That's interesting. I'd be really curious to hear that opera too, and if it sounded similar to her father. I think that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Well, now we've come to the point in the show where we do get to ask you all of your family secrets and offshore accounts and, all of the, all the private information that you would love to just like spill out into the world, because, that's just what we do here. And, but first, why don't you tell us, just what's going on in Cleveland? I know you've got some projects coming up. You've had actually a recent project with Les Delices that is happening or about to be happening.
So Deborah Nagy of Les Delices did a lot of awesome planning for this season, which she expected, there weren't going to be any live performances. So she arranged basically for a full season of full programs that she video recorded in the fall. And she especially wanted to work with as many local people as possible. So I was very lucky to get sort of swept up in that. And I got to do a Christmas program with them. And there's one that is available right now. She'll sort of do a premiere with like a little watch party thing, have some of the artists come on and do it. We actually use the same platform, which is fun.
Right.
And it's available for a couple weeks. And if you buy a ticket, you have access to it, I think, for that whole period. And the one that is currently out is called Games and Grounds, and it's some settings of Aesop's fables.
Nice.
And so they were actually there's a French. They were published in French, kind of to popular opera tunes. In my understanding, I hope I'm not saying anything untrue about this program. And she worked with a poet to create English translations of those, and they're brilliant, and they were super fun to sing. So Jason McStutes and I did a few of those.
Nice.
I got to do a little bit of Baroque dance, and there's a bunch of awesome instrumental stuff, especially on ground basses. So it's a super fun program, and it's available until March 1st. So I highly recommend that you go check it out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, where can people check it out again? What would be like the website or?
Let's see. It is www.lesdelices.org. LESDELICES.org.
Nice. Excellent. Yeah. Les Delices. I'll make sure to say it right next time.
Oh, it's fine. When you go on the website, just add a little pronunciation guide. No, it's yep.
Excellent. Well, cool. And what else have you been up to? I mean, now like spring is approaching, or we think that it might be. So, kind of, what else has been going on in this pandemic land?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky that I'm part of 2 medieval music ensembles that have been, I think, making good use of this rough year, like you guys have. And so Alchemy is a group I've been in for about like 7 years now.
Nice.
It's a bunch of graduates of the Case Western Early Music Program, plus Nicolo Seligman. And we recorded a program called Mirroring the Other a while back, and it was our first program of Jewish music, which was very cool. And Nicolo did a bunch of arranging and a little bit of composing, but working with some texts, medieval Jewish and especially German texts. That was very cool. And then we just a couple of weeks ago got together in Pennsylvania and did a video recording of this program that we call Sweet Friendship. Because we're corny sometimes. And it was bittersweet friendship in this case, because I think David McCormick, I know from your intro that he has been a guest on this show. And because for COVID reasons, he wasn't able to join us, which was especially ironic given the title of the program. It was very sad not to have him with us, but we came up with something really great, and the video and audio people we were working with were awesome. So that should be out in a month. So if you find Alchemy on our website, you can join the mailing list or find us on Facebook and get information about when and how that's going to be released. So yeah.
And so you mentioned before we got on, before we got on that this time that we've been kind of in the lockdown and not able to do kind of the normal things, that you've really started to kind of hone into things that you feel that you really like, you really love, but also that you feel that you're really good at. What are those things? And like, why did you decide on those things?
I don't know. You mentioned the term jack of all trades, or expert in none or whatever. And I was saying that was really how I felt and how I continue to sometimes feel, because I feel like I'm being pulled in so many different directions with the, I've started focusing more and more on medieval music, and I love that. I've gotten to teach medieval music history twice now at Case Western. And you never know something as well as you do when you have to explain it to other people. So that's cool. And also medieval and Renaissance notation. So that's fun. And it's so applicable to the work I do with Alchemy and also with my group here in town, Trabar. So just having things that reinforce each other is awesome. After I moved back to Cleveland, I basically had 2 scheduled hours a week, which was conducting this Renaissance choir at Case Western. And then I was like, well, I guess I better pick up some more work. So I was like teaching children how to play piano, which I love, but I never really felt like I was able to develop my skills as a piano teacher. And I was like doing some summer musical theater workshops, which I love musical theater, but I am so not a musical theater person. So, and then I would do like some Baroque dance occasionally, and I'm like, how do I do that again? And so I still kind of feel like I'm pulled in all directions. And in early music, medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque, and even, classical, they're so different. It's like different instruments, different, different ways of approaching the music. And even if you're specializing, you're covering way more material than if you're sort of just focusing on the 19th century and 20th century rep. So,
did you ever envision it would be your life or your musical life would kind of go in the specific direction?
I know that when I got to Case Western, I wanted to come to Case Western because I fell in love with like 17th century Italian music. And then I discovered 17th century German music, and I was like, of course I loved Bach and Handel, right? So I was all about Baroque music, and I thought that medieval music was like so dorky, and I just did not want to go there. So the fact that I am so stuck in the medieval period at this point is, I would never have guessed that.
Why did you think medieval music was so dorky? Because I honestly, okay, so this is I can identify with that in the sense that if you've ever been to a Renaissance fair, which I love Renaissance fairs, right? I think they're fun, but there is sort of this kind of hokey, let's just throw everything in this like container and we'll just mix it up, and then it just kind of turns into this really big dork nerd fest, which is not a bad thing, but that's I can see that.
I've still never been to a Renaissance fair or a medieval fair, which I think most of them, well, the people that are really in it, like, know the difference between medieval and Renaissance. But then there are a bunch of other people that come and it's like, this is a dress from the 18th century. Yeah, I don't know. But I I really had no desire to be at all associated with any of that stuff when I first got into medieval music, or before I got into medieval music. And I've since met some people that have so much joy in that culture. And there's just, I would like to go to a Renaissance fair at some point, or a medieval fair. And I hope I can like get over my embarrassment of the associations and just like enjoy what it has to offer, because it is awesome. But still have never been. I haven't been avoiding them. I just haven't sought them out. So
Have you been to a medieval times?
no. And not even as a kid, like for a birthday party.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't been to, I'm with you, Elena. I haven't been to any of that, and but I would happily go for like the experience, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
there are people like, I mean, I know like Shira Kamen, you know, she like is she's such a top legit performer, and she
totally, and yet such a
totally
hippie.
loves that stuff. Right. Yeah, exactly. So people like
we
that
love lots of lots of love to you, Shira. Just a shout out to you if you're watching this episode.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yes, it's true. And she's also a very talented folk musician too. So there's a
Right.
lot of crossover there, you know,
Yeah.
with between folk music and the Renaissance period. And from what I have observed of the medieval, I haven't played much medieval repertoire, but yeah.
Well,
So
for you,
music-
it requires like very specific hardware. For us,
Yes.
it's a little easier to just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this now. Of course, whether you do it well is one thing, because I'm pretty sure Elena could like run circles around me when it comes to any of that. But at least the hardware is there, right? Yeah.
I remember the early days when I had no idea how medieval music worked. It's okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's beautiful sounding. But the few times I've been asked, the last time I turned it down because there just was not enough time that I felt I could dedicate to learning the style and doing it properly. And that's the one thing I really fear.
Yeah. That kind of that reminds me of a topic that I used to spend a lot of time thinking about when I had regular gigs, which was that I wanted to break out of this mold of like feeling like I had maybe a week or two to get ready for any given project. And it felt like something that was very much a part of our little bubble of early music people, that like, you know, you're not going to get to sit with an opera for 3 months. You know, you just sort of bounce from one thing to the next. And especially with all the time I've spent in the medieval kind of mindset and their emphasis on memory and memorizing things and like really getting to know them. That's been one of the nice things about like stepping back from all the performing, that I feel like I can actually really get to know things. And I would love I think this might be more true of the American early music scene, than it is in Europe, because there they have a little bit more support for what they're doing, so they can sort of just like take more time to get to know things. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear mixed. Yeah, I kind of hear mixed reviews on that from people who live in Europe. I don't know what your experience has been, Leanne, like where it's like total rush job on a gig or actually getting to spend time.
But especially like, I mean, it's true for instrumentalists as well. But Elena, I'm curious if you feel, it sounds like you feel the same way. Like for me, if somebody hands me a piece of music and expects me to do a really great job on it with only like 2 weeks lead, like that's hard to get into your body, because there are so many like things. You've got text, you've got what does it mean, the physical, like maybe I haven't sung melismas in a while, and so like you have to work that up, you know. And then like other things like the style, like I'm not just gonna jump in and sing like a Periton piece, right? Because you want to present it in a certain way, because I don't have the knowledge at this point, or you have to call it up. Like, do you feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. And even just like when I get to return to a program and I'm coming in knowing the music really well, and there's always layers of layers deeper you can go with pieces. And I really feel like a lot of, I mean, there are barriers to communicating early music with modern audiences that don't, it's not from their culture. But also when you're presenting music that you haven't lived with for a long time, like you are not doing it justice.
Mhm.
And I've done too many performances where I feel like I've just not gotten to know the music as well as it deserved. So that's kind of a personal goal moving forward, to just do what I can to, I don't know, move in a different direction with that. But
Yeah. And
I
that's
agree.
really tough, because if somebody calls and you really want to work with them, and you have to make it work, right? So
yeah. Anyway, downer.
I love our reality.
what we do.
But actually, I wonder what you guys think about this too, because sometimes I think, I wonder how much too into the weeds do we get into some of these questions, right? And I think part of it is like looking back and trying to understand the context of people who lived within the context, and they didn't have to think about the context, right?
Mhm.
It's an extra burden that's placed upon us if we want to actually be authentic to what they're doing.
And they weren't performing a million different repertoires. They were performing their own repertoire.
Mm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, definitely. Does pose an interest. I think it is interesting. I do think there is a difference between what you guys have to do and what we have to do, because there's, like, depending on the context of things. I mean, an instrumentalist, especially if it's a piece we've done a lot, oftentimes we can show up, on shorter notice, having had played, whatever. Not to say that it wouldn't take away from us being able to do something different with it, right? But I do think it is a different thing with you guys. There's a lot more inner physicality that I feel like, and also there's lots of different layers as far as language and meaning, and so,
languages that you're like passingly familiar with sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what are some of the things you've been? I mean, you said you've been really geeking out on living in the medieval. Has there been some new things that you've kind of come across, like, as you've been doing that, or like just some, just I don't know.
So my group in Cleveland, Shrobar, it's a trio that I have with Allison Monroe and
Nice.
Karen Weston, and we like to do research together, and we have a monthly podcast that is audio only, and we've kind of have turned it into like our book club. So we just get together and discuss something that we've read.
Nice.
And one book that we did work on for a long time, it was very challenging, was Mary Carruthers' The Art of Memory or something. Anyway, but just I have been applying some of those principles to my life, I think, and I've been encouraging my students. I teach voice at CSU, just to, like, as you're learning something, just see if you can just memorize it as you go. And there are ways of I think, learning how to memorize things. They practiced memorization. They had so many different techniques for it that I feel like are not part of our education system as much. So that's been a fun thing to apply to, like, learning a Baroque dance, medieval memory techniques. So
Awesome.
yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah.
Any other, like, little hobbies or things that you've picked up during the land of pandemia?
I have gotten super into puzzles, which sometimes I have a hard time tearing myself away, like, at night. I have been, maybe a healthier thing is that I've been going out and walking more, like a lot of us. Went on a really nice walk in a local metro park. Cleveland has some really great metro parks. So I was out there with a friend this morning.
Nice.
Is it a sign of our getting older, or is it a sign of being in coronavirus that the phrase "I went on a really nice walk" has appeal?
Probably both. Yeah. Stretched my legs.
Yeah, stretched my legs. Oh, it was exciting. We went to the store today. What an exciting event.
Yeah.
One fun thing that definitely was a result of the pandemic was that a friend of mine she's a Pilates instructor, and she was doing all these Zoom classes for a while over the summer. And then she was pregnant, and like when she got far enough along in her pregnancy, she paused those, and a friend of mine and I had been doing them together, and we decided to just keep doing like YouTube classes over Zoom in the mornings. And now I have this little community of people that I see in theory 5 days a week in the morning, and we just do like a little Zoom workout together, and it's
So
so
cool.
fun and such a great accountability system. And I can't imagine I would have ever come up with that if Zoom hadn't become the primary way that we all see each other.
Yeah. Actually, there will be some benefits from this after we're done, which is nice. Some weird things too, but definitely some benefits like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we couldn't have talked. I wouldn't have talked to you again for I don't know how long. So
I know. Yeah, you were saying what was like 2014 or
it was the Boston Early Festival, and I can't remember which one it was because Brandy. It was when Brandy and I like hightailed it halfway across the country in a car with Phil Spray. He was in the back seat. He wouldn't let.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't let his instruments. He wouldn't like let me sit in the back. He wouldn't like so he could sit up front because he had like his he had like 3 instruments in the back, and just for hours, 20 plus hours sitting in the back with that way. So anyway, we did a tour, and like we played in New York and Boston and Hartford. And that's why Brandy was asked to play with 3 Notched. And then you were on there doing the Dowland, which actually was really beautiful. And it was a nice touch. So I was like, that was the first time I'd ever heard and then also met you. And then also the last time I'd actually seen you in public. So
and we've been Facebook friends for a while. And not like when I think of you, I'm like, oh yeah, I have a vague idea of who that person is because I randomly see them on Facebook.
I know. Well, I actually doubted you would even remember me at that point because I was like, it'd been so long, and it was such one of those scenarios where it's like you met this person, but there really wasn't any reason for you to remember them. So it's fine.
Yeah. No, that's what Facebook's good for.
Yeah. All right. Well, do we have anything else other than Elena will send us her credit card information and we'll post it on the website?
Great.
Is that it? Okay. All right.
Or am I stuck?
No, Brandy is stuck.
All
Leanne
right.
and I are right here with you. We're just
All right.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, Brandy may come back, and if not, that's how that works. But thanks so much, Elena. It was a joy to have you with us and to play along with our games and to get to hear about all your awesome, cool new work, especially in the medieval realm.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely.
This is such a little thing you guys are doing.
Fantastic. Well, let us know if anything's good coming on, and hopefully we'll have you back another time. And with that, Brandy, Leanne, and I would wish everybody happy weekend. We do this every Friday. Join us again next Friday at 12 for another BBE Live. And who knows, maybe Elena will drop in. We'll see. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Nottingham ale, boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale. Nottingham ale, boys, Nottingham ale. No liquor on earth is like Nottingham ale.